Hello, everyone. This is Manolo Concepcion talking to you from Illinois here in the United States of America. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, where I started my career as a player and later as a coach. And now here I am an NCAA Division I coach. I'm talking to you through Volley Junkies, which is a program that we started a couple of months ago. You can find us in our Facebook page and also in the YouTube page. Please go and try to register as soon as possible so you can actually go and see this video and all of the interviews that we have done throughout these past months. Today, we have a very special guest. He has been a coach in the Japanese national team. He has been a coach in the Turkish national team. He coaches in the best team in Poland right now, and he's Mr. Ferhat Akbas. Hi, Coach. How are you?
I'm very good. I hope it will be a nice meeting. Thank you for inviting me. I am a really very happy guest here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And my question to you is, you told me, behind the scenes that you started training 3 weeks ago. What has been the formula to make it work throughout these hard times of the pandemic? How do you keep people safe there?
So honestly telling, the best thing in Poland is the love of volleyball. So these people, this country wants to play this game. So they found a way to start practices. We all have all schedule of the season. Everything is clear. Of course, in this pandemic, if there is a case in one team, that team is under quarantine. And until everybody has the negative test, they have to be in quarantine. But so far, we are lucky in our team. There are no cases. In one man team and in one woman team, there were some cases. So they were in quarantine, but all is good. In Poland, everything is safe. And I'm from Turkey. Turkey was also in good condition, so I could fly here. So far, so good. We will see in the future.
Who are your main influencers as a coach now? Like, who are the coaches that has meant to you the most, that have made you into who you are today, Ferhat?
Honestly telling, I can give one name, is a Langping Chinese coach. So she teach me how to be a coach, let's say, how to communicate with the players. And I see very different point of view about the volleyball, because we are coming from European culture of volleyball. But when I go to China first, I see the game totally in a different way. So I can say that Langping is the influencer for me.
How do you get to, to actually experience that with Langping? She's someone like a legend, a mystery at the same time, because, very few people get to talk to her about volleyball. Can you give us an internal view of what makes Langping so special?
So I can say that we are like men coaches. I don't want to separate the coaches, men or women, but in this case, I need to tell some about this, because some moments when we coach women, when we coach ladies, as men coaches, we can miss some points. But the good thing about her is she can feel also the player. So she can understand what is going on in her mind. So she can catch the details, emotional details, in my opinion, better than men coaches. And second thing, what she is good is, I learned this a lot in Far East. She is a lot quiet person. So about communication, I learned that yelling to players, shouting to players, or to go very aggressive to the players are not always the right way. It's not the right way. So I started to understand, to calm down, to listen my in voice, let's say. And this is the best part of her. For example, in one game, official or no, you will never see her shouting to the players, but she has this respect a lot. So I really can say that this is the best way of her.
Do you coach the same way, men and women? Do you feel, Ferhat, that that's the best approach for both genders?
In my opinion, men volleyball and women volleyball are totally separated sports, different sports. I don't even compare because men volleyball is a lot faster now, incredible fast, powerful. It is allowed to make much more mistakes, in my opinion, and hard to catch a strong team. But in women volleyball, it's totally different game. You don't see men teams play that much combination. They play a classic game. You don't need to change something. But women volleyball, you need to go details. Each country, each continent, let's say, you change, you play different volleyball. But in men volleyball, from far east to the west, kind of the same game, but some teams are better, some teams are worse. So I don't even compare these two sports.
One more question about the Chinese culture of volleyball. How is it that China in women are in the top of the world, and then the men are good but not at the same level? Is the whole difference Lang Ping in that team, or do they train differently, or what do you think is the main difference?
Honestly telling, for me to compare men Chinese volleyball and women Chinese volleyball is hard because honestly, I don't know a lot about the men team. But if I want to talk about women team, I can say that the selection is a lot easier than other countries because in China, when you are there, in 1 year, you can see incredible player you never seen in your life. So the selection is better. And the training culture is very classic. I mean, the best team or the worst team, doesn't matter where, they practice kind of the same way. So I don't believe that a Chinese team player, when they go to national team, they have a totally different style. So at the top, there is a kind of leader, boss of all country organization, is Lang Ping, and the selection is easier. And there are other coaches that actually obeys this organization. So it is, in my opinion, a country thing. And I can say that, for example, in many countries, Olympics are big targets, but especially in Europe, club teams are very aggressive to win. So they have a lot of target to win the European Championship, European Club Championship, blah, 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 blah. But in China, the main goal is always Olympics. So and plan always forward 4 years after, 8 years after. So different point of view. This is what I can say.
And in Turkey and Poland, you said that then it's a completely different perspective. Do you feel that having a whole national system helps the development of the game in each country? Like, will you say that if the pro league of each country has the same philosophy, it will help at the Olympic level?
In my opinion, for sure. This is for sure because we see the results in Polish men team and we see the results in Turkish women national team. So both of them are participating to Olympics, which is very difficult to participate from Europe continent because when you go to East or when you go to West, it's little bit easier, let's say. But in Europe, there are top teams, but the league of the country pushes the limits, in my opinion. That's why Polish league is strong. And there are players that play abroad. In Turkey, the same. Turkish league is very high level. So the best foreign players come to Turkey. It means that Turkish national team players work and play against the best. So as you see the result now, second time Turkish team will be second time will be in Olympics. I think it is affecting a lot.
A lot of good Turkish coaches at the international level. How is that preparation, in terms of the education of the Turkish coaches, around the world? Like how does it start there in Turkey? Why is there so many good coaches there?
In my opinion, this depends on, again, to the league because, for example, I want to talk about myself. When I was very young, I started like coaching, scouting at 19, 18 years old. I was a kid, let's say. So at that moment, I had opportunity to work with good coaches. So, for example, I met with Lang Ping first in Turkey. So So I work with Massimo Barbolini in Turkey. I work with Giovanni Guidetti in Turkey. So you learn from these people how to manage this. So this is an advantage for you. But of course, is it the only way to learn? Of course not. Is it an advantage? If you want to see, if you want to learn, yes, it is an advantage. For example, we talk about Daniele Castellani. It's from Argentina.
One of the greats, yes.
One of the greatest. But if he wouldn't work in Turkey, I wouldn't even shake hands with him. So I know him from Turkey. So of course, this is not the only thing. You need to watch games. You need to improve yourself a lot. But this is the first thing. When you go in Turkey, you have a lot of opportunity to improve about volleyball. This is what I think.
By the way, I just want to say thank you for the people that are watching and around the world. We have people from Colombia, Puerto Rico. We have people from the Philippines. We have people from the US. And we have people, of course, from more places in South America. So I'm grateful for the opportunity of reaching to everyone. Let me know if anyone has any questions for our great guest today. Ferhat, I start by asking you, how do you define your leadership style right now? What do you think defines you as a leader?
So first thing that I try to be a leader is I try to communicate a lot good with the players. So I honestly think that, communicating shouldn't be always directly, because if you want to be a good leader, you need to trust your staff. So for example, I have 2 assistant coaches, I have scout, I have 2 physio, I have physical preparator, and the best thing that I try to do is to let them also talk with the players, to work with the players, because, if they always hear the same sound, same person in the same way, it will be hard to lead people. So first thing that I do is trusting my staff. Second, trying to be a lot positive with the players, because in women's side, I believe that how much you approach to the game, to your team positive, it gives that much result. Of course, it's not always possible, but to be positive is most important thing. And with the ladies, it's the best way to be honest, not just volleyball, about everything. So I try to be a lot honest with my players. If they are not good about something, I try to let them know. If they are good, I try to let them know at the equal way. So this is the way that I try, at least.
You have coached in different countries. How do you establish those relationships with players from different cultures? Like, what are some keys that coaches can learn from you that we should keep in mind?
This is not an easy case. First thing that you have to do, in my opinion, when you go to a country, you need to watch people a lot. I mean, not the players, the people at the street, the people at the restaurant, the people behavior is very important. For example, when you go to Japan, all the players, all of them, they are shy to have a direct contact with you. I mean, speaking to you is a difficult case for them. Or let's say I had a translator there, you don't even have a contact with them. It's a very tough case. I work in Turkey, totally different people, very aggressive people, very emotional people, and you need to make them sure that they understand and listen to you. Then when I'm in Poland, I understand that this culture like much more distance between coach and player. So I let the player arrange the distance with me, not I try to manage. So each country I go, each culture I go, I try to understand the culture of the country. So it is really not easy task. This is the key, but it comes with, in my opinion, with experience. When you go, when you see, you understand the case.
Is it our job as coaches to also adapt to players in the volleyball part, like in technique and tactics, or is it more, you get to a team and you establish the system that you want and then you help them get there?
In my opinion, it's very clear. When you are a coach, you need to have a very clear mind about your game system. So in my opinion, wherever you go, even if you have a team in the moon, the player and the team needs to understand what do you want from them. It should be, in my opinion, very clear. But on the other hand, you need to feel the differences, what the players can do and cannot. For example, if I want to give from myself, you cannot play the same game that you play in Poland with Japan, because Japanese players are totally different genetics, different height, different quality of game, but Poland people are a lot stronger, but totally different education. Of course, you try to manage your game system in the same way, but with the ability of the players, what they are good, what they are bad. So you try to sharpen the strong part. At least I try this way.
Are you a different person as an assistant coach and as a head coach? You know, you're one of those cases that you have been in really important teams as an assistant coach and also in really important teams as a head coach. Like how does your personality changes?
Honestly telling, of course, this answer can be given better by the players, not me, because it's hard to see myself. I try to be the same guy.
Yeah.
But of course, when you are the second coach, the relation with the player is a lot easier, because the responsibility that you take is actually little bit less. When you are the head coach, any kind of, mistake or good thing comes to you. So it is good to be assistant coach. In my opinion, the best way to be a head coach goes from that way. Because if you sit, watch what the head coach making mistake, is the best way to see. For example, I always hear that the assistant coaches say that, I watched the good coach and I became a good coach because I work as him or her. I think different. I try to see the negative part of the good coach. So if you see the negative part, okay, I shouldn't do this next time when I'm head coach. So I try to see the case in that way.
And then how do you as an assistant deal with what you would consider a bad decision? You're the assistant coach, you see the head coach making a bad decision. What type of advice do you have to other coaches of how to address that with the head coach?
In my opinion, assistant coaches needs to be clear about one thing. So we all make mistakes. Head coaches, assistant coaches, it's clear. So when a head coach makes a choice that is totally different than your choice, just respect it and talk to him after, or talk to him before, because after some moment, what the head coach will do in some moments. So to be patient is very key. And in my opinion, the assistant coaches in all the world needs to ask much more responsibility from the head coach. So in my opinion, in 2020, the head coaches are a lot open to take the help, the assist of assistant coach as a real help. So the assistant coaches, I see that they are a lot behind. They see the mistakes and they try to react to that mistake in a, short time. In my opinion, this should be opponent way. Okay, assistant has a responsibility, he has an experience, and at the same time, he can share and talk with the head coach in a good way. This should be in my opinion.
As a head coach, you see your assistant coaches giving a feedback that you do not agree with to a player. How do you deal with something like that?
Totally opposite. I never put my assistant coach in difficult position. So if assistant coach says something, even if I don't agree, okay, I'm in. I try to catch the best moments, best things that he is telling that moment. Even if I catch nothing, okay, let the player work, because the player will not change like this, player changes are with time. So you can explain the situation, why you don't agree after. This is very important, head coach and assistant coach, if they don't talk kind of the same language with the player, the same things with the player, one of them is in a very bad position. Mostly assistant coaches, because assistant coaches are the, let's say, less responsible person, and head coach say something different, and assistant coach, whatever you tell is like, okay, thank you. This is my opinion.
In the perspective now of when you make a mistake with your players, you feel that you got on the way of winning. Do you let your players know, hey, that was on me, I made a mistake, or how do you deal with those type of mistakes?
I did this many times because, as I mentioned, everybody make mistake. And when players make a mistake in our eyes, as head coaches or coaches, we always tell it, But at the same time, we need to be on the other side. When we make a mistake, we need to be not arrogant, but easy. We need to say that, okay, this was my mistake. Next time will not happen, because players also need to trust you. Players need to see that you are on their side. We are not against each other. So, in my opinion, the best thing is best communication, honest communication. It's not something bad. In, for example, football, the best coaches says that it was my bad. But in volleyball, I see sometimes, some head coaches that they think they are great. They never make mistakes. And there are players that are always guilty. I don't agree with that.
Coaching in the pro league, winning, it's probably number one thing and shorter than coaching an Olympic type of team where you are, in a goal. How do you use your plan? How does your planning changes from a professional team to a national team?
Okay, it was a little bit bad connection, but I got the question. You asked me about Olympic Olympic team coaching and club team coaching, professional team coaching.
Yes, so what's the difference of planning for a professional team that winning is the number one thing right now, and then national team that winning in 4 years, it's probably the most important thing?
In my opinion, the most important thing that you have to deal as a head coach is media communications, public communications, to explain yourself in a very good way. So each national team, each program, each club has different choices and different situation. So, for example, you go to a country that is going to Olympics for the first time, you need to create something and you need to be very patient. But if you are the coach of, I don't know, USA, China, Brazil, doesn't matter what is your program. At the same time, you need to win. So the best thing that you have to do to be very clear with your target. In my opinion, in long-term schedules, long-term planning in volleyball, you need to be very good about selection of the players, because in national teams, it's the biggest case. After that, winning is important. But I think that winning is a lot combined. If you want to make some changes, even in Olympic team, you need to win at the same time, because very less country, I mean, not more than 5, will not have that patience of your 4 years work. If you are not good at 2 years, okay, thank you so much. We have 2 more years. So the coach will change. In my opinion, winning is the main thing. Doesn't matter what you are doing. You are a school coach. You need to teach the players to win. You need to teach the players how to lose, how to behave when you are losing. You are the Olympic champion team. You need to win. So combining the game with winning is the best. This is my opinion.
When I'm teaching a young person how to win, what is the difference between that and teaching a professional player how to win?
It is a tough question. I mean, young people needs, especially this new generation, needs to learn that, when you win something, especially about sports, you can grow a lot. So in new generation, I see that winning is not the biggest case. I mean, the happiness doesn't come a lot from the winning, but the world rules didn't change yet. I mean, so far what I see, if you want to be a great player or a great coach, you need to win first. So they need to understand that we don't play this game just for fun, okay, or for my college education, or for my, short-term joys. It doesn't work. If you have a plan to win, you need to keep going, doesn't matter which kind of team, so they need to understand it. And the second thing about the young generation, they need to understand how to lose, because I see big reactions, sometimes zero reactions to this. So I think this also need to change. In senior level, a player that is at 25, 30 years old, they know how to behave, how to act. It's not the biggest deal. It's just keep winning is the case.
So dealing with failure in younger ages, seem to be one of the most difficult things to handle, even beyond sports. How do you teach them? Like, what's your role as a coach to teach someone how to deal with that failure?
So women, I want to talk mostly about the women team. When a young lady lose, like 80-90% of them goes really down. Like self-confidence is not working good. So the trust to something, this can be a coach, this can be herself, this can be something as teammate, they are losing their self-confidence and confidence to their mates. So I try to change it when they lose a lot or when they lose because of volleyball. I try to work on extra individual work much more than usual. And I try to fix the problem. I choose one and I go for it. If there are 10 problems, let's say, about a player or a team, let's finish one of them and let's go to next of them. I think many coaches make this mistake. When there are many problems, they want to fix it all together. In my opinion, separated way to fix one of them is something. Be patient, especially for the young people, young players. Okay, you don't pass good, don't worry, you block better. So try to balance. This is my opinion.
So a lot of repetition could help with dealing with failure, and trying to get players to earn more confidence then, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And then in terms of each country that you have been, and let's concentrate now in, Turkey, Poland, Japan. What are the main differences that you emphasize the most with those type of teams?
I would like to talk about the players here.
Right.
For example, I am not sure if it is good, but when you work in Japan, you say to a player to attack the ball cross, let's say. So until you change your opinion, or if you don't tell this to her, until the end of the practice, she will try to attack cross. Like this is something good, because she has that enough repetition. It's good for her. But at the same time, she never use her, how do you say in English, initiative?
Yeah. Creativity. Yes.
Yeah, she never creates something. She just go for cross. But for example, when you work in Turkey, if you say to a player, attack this ball cross, you need to repeat again, because she will not even start that one. This is not something bad, but it gives a lot of creativity at the same time, because you will have an answer immediately. Coach, yes, but I can cross, but if I attack line, can be better. I see better, something like this. You will always have an answer. I think Poland is good balance about this. Polish players are listening to the coach in a very good way. And when they see that coach give them a freedom, they try to obey it. So they try to create something. That's why in Poland, to work with a women team looks a little bit easier. This is what can I see as the difference.
Interesting how, like what we do in volleyball is just a micro example of what society of each country is, and how people behave outside of the court. It's the same way that we have to consider, in terms of us as teachers of the game that we love.
Exactly. The culture affects everything. So if the culture is different, also the spectators are different. So the pressman is different. The referee is different. So, for example, I worked in Romania 2 years, and in Romania, the main focus that I had in some games was how to deal with the referee, because In Romania, there are very good referees. They are good, but they want to be the kind of the boss of the game. So good, but at the same time, you need to manage this. So for example, you come to Poland, you will never think about this. You don't even see the referee. So there are many big differences. You need to know the culture first. It's sportive.
What are your strengths as a coach? What are the things that you feel are really responsible for winning?
I mean, you ask for technically or
yes, yes. As a system now, like let's talk like more volleyball related. Like, what are some things that you like to emphasize a lot?
In my opinion, first thing in 2020, if you are a slow team, doesn't matter man, woman, age. If you are a slow team, you are starting to gain 1-0 lose. So you need to have a really fast team. This is first thing that I try to create. And a couple questions before you ask me what is the thing that you always try to keep. Speed is the thing. For example, in Japan, I play very fast, extra fast. In Poland, I try to play extra fast, but I am trying to push that limit. And this, I think, especially in Europe, creates a difference. Second thing that I really love to focus is the floor game. I call it floor game. Means defense, serve, and pass. Because if you want to play a fast game, it is all connected. You need to have a good pass and defense. If you don't have these connections, you cannot play fast. So this is the basic thing that I do. And if you want to create a good fast team, generally the team is a little bit shorter than usual. So it means that you need to serve good because your block limits are less. You need to defense good. So I try to combine the work in that way.
When was the last game that you actually played this year, Coach? Do you ever remember, Ferhat? Before this pandemic?
I remember really well because we played the Polish Cup final as our last game, and it was full gym, full spectators.
Against who?
Excuse me?
Who was your opponent?
Opponent was Reshov, the team of Natalia Valentin and Antigua. We were in the final, and we played 3-2. It was a very enjoyable game, and it was, I think, 8 March. So from that moment, we didn't play any official game. I'm also very excited in this period how to come back. It will be very good for us, for all of us.
When you come back now, and you've been working 3 weeks, you say that speed is really important. That means that serve receive, reception is really important to you as well. How much percent during a practice do you work on reception, and do you work on it individually, or you like to work on it more random and game-like?
So it is very clear answer for me. Every day we have to pass for sure. I mean, the players touch the ball. I like them touch the ball with pass a lot. So, for example, a receiver, if it's a practice day, for sure we will receive. So I can give this individually or maybe extra or maybe during the practice. For sure I will give. Most of the time about the pass, I love to use this during the weights practice. So I combine the weights and pass. So this is a good option. And for the especially younger ones, it's a kind of rule in our team that they have to come early and they need to pass. Also for the setters, setting is good. So I can say that every day they need to touch the ball as reception for sure.
Because that's really important to you as well. Do you hire setters that can play that system, or you feel that any setter can be taught to play fast?
So it is a very good question. For example, when you are in Japan, it is very easy to find a player that can play fast game. It's very clear. When you are in Europe, you need to create your own organization or you need to change the setter. I will explain this with 2 examples. When I was in Romania, I didn't have a setter that can play fast. So at that time, I was in Japan national team. So I did like this. I brought 2 Japanese national team setter to my team. So it was easy transition for me. 2 Japanese setter in Europe plays your game. But when I come to Poland, I have Polish national team setter, but she's very high quality player, but she didn't know my game. So it wouldn't be so easy to bring a Japanese setter. It wouldn't be right because we have rule here. We have 3-4 rule. So I totally changed her game as I wish to. But of course, in the beginning, you need to talk with the player because this player is not a player from nothing. She's a very good player and she needs to accept that this change will be good for her. So one by one, each practice, I give small changes, and now I have a Polish Japanese setter. So I'm really happy with her.
Oh, okay. And with that setter, do you work more on technique to create that speed, or do you work more just on the pace of the game? So, like, does technique matter to you a lot or not?
Not too much because each player, each anatomy has different style. So you don't need to create a setter with your rules. They have their body, they have their style. So I try to make small improvements about this technique, but mostly I love to work with the setters about counting the game, let's say. What do I mean with counting the game? I mean, the ball goes one side or that side, middle or whatever, which game makes her win. So I want her remember maybe 5 points before, and I want her to create her game after 3 points. So this is mostly what I do. In the beginning is tough, but I love them to understand what's happening with the game. So mostly about setter calls, our work goes on that direction. Setter call I love more.
Do you emphasize a lot on what type of pass? So are you playing fast even when the pass is not on the double positive area? Like, what's the limit for you to play fast?
So the case is like this. This depends on the team. For example, a team can play over the net 3 meters high or maybe 2.5 meters high. Some teams, if you start immediately 3.5 meters over the net, is good height. So in my opinion, wherever you are, whatever the position is, you need to play under this level. So it doesn't matter setting or something else, defense, reception, any kind of ball touch needs to be under this limit. So it makes all the game quicker. That's what I try to do. I don't want to separate the situation because if you give this freedom to the players, there is always a kind of negotiation or kind of misunderstanding about the height, about the speed. So we have some limits, we go for it.
Within those limits, it's every player hitting on the same speed, coach, or are you able, like, if she's good enough, are you able to adapt to say everyone plays fast except a specific player?
Of course, it is impossible because you have very tall player, very short player. Some very experienced players at the age of 30 cannot handle that much big change. So under this limit, I have some freedom. So one player wants to attack a little bit higher. Okay, very welcome. But at the same time, she needs to know that, okay, how much I play higher, that much my chances to play is less. This is what I try to explain in a good way. Okay, if you play higher ball, you need to be very good, especially about attacking, so it needs to be very clear. So who is quicker is better to me, but with our limit.
Why is speed so important to you? Why do you think it's so relevant to winning? I know that here in the NCAA, the emphasis on speed has increased. So the ball is faster, but we also an emphasis of higher. So it doesn't need to be low to be fast. So why is speed so important to you at your level?
So I always coached in professional teams, high-level teams. So maybe my answer goes much more to that spot. So when you play with a great opponent, let's say you play with Brazil national team, let's say, you cannot how do you say, win against that block defense system with a slow game. It is kind of impossible because they have great block defense. If you want to break that wall, you need to play fast. I learned this in Japan, especially because you play with huge people, maybe double time bigger than you, and you need to pass that block. Without speed, thank you so much, it's kind of impossible because you have triple block. It's impossible. And I see my videos that is really very good organized. Very good organized.
In terms of that, the speed of the game that you're playing right now, I also like the fact that it's a fast ball, but it's also a ball that allows the player to come in and get it. So it's not a ball outside of the antenna. It's more of a ball that is fast enough for blockers to have to make early decisions, correct?
It is totally true. At the same time, I don't know how to explain, but maybe you can, or the people that watch can think that it is maybe a little bit old-fashioned, but in my opinion, a setter, if she doesn't jump, the attacker she has much more time to play quicker ball, because that very small difference on the net, like maybe 20-30 centimeters, is for the attacker now, because as you see, my setter here is most of the time, if it is not necessary, she doesn't jump, because we give this extra time to the attacker. At the same time, the game is quicker. So people can say that still 2020 the setter doesn't jump. I think we need to go back to old fashioned if we want to play.
Simple. Yeah, simple. And speaking of what type of passes do you like to play fast? Look at this fast set. It's flat, with a good rhythm. And this is an out-of-system ball. So you're trying to get everyone on the same type of pace.
I want to interrupt you. For example, the ball that you showed is Martina Vukashik, national team player. And I can clearly say she was totally playing slow game. I can say that now she is playing even faster than this ball. So it's a good example, but we could change this game even better. Yeah.
Good. And in terms of how with the middles, does it still fast for every ball? Like, what's the key? For example, when you play, I think you call it a 7 or you call it a 31. When you play the 31 compared to when you play the slide, what are the differences of speed? How do you like to play those balls and when?
So 7, I put a very clear rule. I mean, if you are in front of the setter, it doesn't matter. First tempo, we call G, or let's say 7. I want the middle blocker on the air already when the setter touched the ball. So it means that we are in good timing, because if she is not jumping on the right timing, my left side is, if she has the ball, the set of left side will be touched by the middle blocker. So I want this at the same time jumping, let's say, but middle doesn't touch the ball. So this is very important. For fast, for one leg, we have much more time. This depends on the player situation, let's say.
Okay. And in terms of that, are your middles all able to run that pace? And do you also like to run the back row as fast as you're running the front row, coach?
This depends on the attacker. Depends on which attacker attacks from second line. For example, last season I had 2 Cubans, and one Cuban was slower than the other one. So one is extra fast, and I let her go for that. The other one is fast, but still not enough. So I let her rhythm. As I mentioned before, each player has the freedom about that. But if she can hit quicker, I push the limit about that for sure.
How do you work on a hitter having enough tools, like hitting high hands, hitting away, and getting different type of shots while still being able to play fast? What are things that you do in practice to help with this?
It's all about step work. I mean, when the setter set the ball, you need to be at the right position at right timing. This is the only key. Whatever happens, whatever is defense, dig, pass, free ball, you need to be at the same spot when setter touch the ball. So this is the key for me. It's, I think, not so complicated stuff. About the attack on the net, I give a lot of freedom to the players. So I rarely say that you can attack the ball cross or line. If the player doesn't see it, I of course give some help, but generally I don't want to talk about that because attack is a free action. I mean, it is about feeling. Okay, even if we are good coaches, we just watch the game, but the player herself feels it, feels the ball, feels the block. So it is better to give some freedom at attack for sure about the directions and the shot style.
Feeling, and a couple of guests have talked about that, and it's such a complicated concept, coach, for us because it's subjective. It's something that you cannot necessarily see. How do you talk about feeling with the players? Like how does that go in your feedback with them?
So it is very important for coaches, especially about the set quality or setting or whatever is the case. If you go between two players and if you try to fix the subject, many times you are making mistake because, as we mentioned, that feeling is better than sometimes watching. So at these kind of things, I always suggest my players to talk directly with the player, and I try to be as much as possible there to listen and understand their feeling. Because if you try to ask the player which kind of ball is it, she gives the feeling answer to you. So you don't see it maybe, but you know it. So first is question, first is listening, after directing the best way. This is what I try.
Interesting. Yes. And let's talk about defense now. Of course, you had a great opportunity to work with Langping and, in Japan as well, two teams that emphasize a lot on that part of the game. What are some of your principles, coach, in defense?
Principles are very clear. First of all, you need to give enough repetition to the players about defense. If you don't do that, whatever you explain, it is hard to make it. For example, in Europe, to teach blocking or to teach let's say, serving is kind of easier because the body lets it go. But in Europe, if you want to teach a player defense, you need to work on it. This is the first thing. Second thing is generally, before I go to Far East, I was thinking that Japanese players or Chinese players, they have incredible defensive tactics that is creating unbelievable defense. But I saw that actually they have a general plan, something good, but mostly feeling where to wait, watching the opponent in a good way is the key. So in my opinion, to create a system, block defense system together against an opponent is the best way, not working always the same rhythm. In Europe, we make this mistake. We always give the same style, give the same objectives, let's say, and we try to make it great. No, it doesn't work, in my opinion.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about those two differences. Why do you think that it works so well for countries like, in Asia, especially Japan, South Korea, and China?
Like, first of all, is anatomy. These players are much more available to make defense. This is very clear. They are more flexible. They read the game better. They are much more closer to the floor. So this helps a lot. Second thing, repetition. And third thing, I don't see that. For example, in Europe, if somebody makes a defense, let's say a middle blocker makes a defense at second line, it is like something extra. I mean, it's like a miracle, But in, for example, Far East, in Japan, if a ball is not defended, is a problem. It's something cannot happen. In Europe, it's a miracle. So this is the mentality that we have to have more than talking about the tactics. it's about the will, about repetition. That changes a lot for sure. And flexibility about tactics. In Europe, coaches have very clear systems, but they don't change their system against the opponent too much.
Because of that hard work defensively, does strength and conditioning now comes even more important, coach?
Strength and conditioning, not just in defense, in all volleyball skills is very important. Now women volleyball started to be very closer to men volleyball, and the main difference between these two is power. So power, strength, conditioning lets you make the better job. Some players are naturally like this now, but this affects everything about defense. I don't think so. I mean, it's not the main thing, but also important.
In terms of Japan, and you talk about shorter players, do you think that could also apply for countries like mine, in other countries in South America, that we have shorter players? Do you think this could be a good type of system for people like us?
Why not? It is possible. Plus, you guys have one plus. Mostly your jumping capacity naturally is better. So, in my opinion, you guys even have more plus about this. And the biggest difference is mentality. I mean, Japanese people know their, let's say, disabilities that they cannot do. They know their capacity, so they work on it. They really work on it. So we need to accept first that, okay, we are not good enough about something, so let's work on it for sure. This system can work for everywhere. Why not?
Tell me a normal practice day in the Japanese or Chinese system. How would it look like? For the people that like us that we have never been in that situation, how would that look like?
So the difference is, for example, we have a practice at, let's say, 4 o'clock in Europe. Doesn't matter the country. Players who has big responsibility comes 3:30, half an hour before. Some of them comes 3:45. Some of them comes 3:50. In Japan, if you have practice at 4, players start to come from 2:30. So this duration of 1.5 hour, 2 hours is already a long practice time. So these girls come, just practice. Doesn't matter easy or difficult, but they touch the ball. So can you imagine that there is a player that touching the ball double time more than you? Whatever your conditioning, jumping, this girl knows to play volleyball. This is big difference. So I think European working also in USA or South America, I think is the same. Is not like that. So repetition is a lot. Spending time on the court is a lot. But that's why maybe Japanese players retire at 29, 28. They quit a lot early.
Because of that amount of time that they spend. Is there a way to avoid that burnout and still have that kind of work ethic, Ferhat? Like, what kind of balance have you found that that works for you now?
In my opinion, you need to for sure communicate and ask the players if they would like to work extra. So there are in one team minimum 5-6 players that are already willing to work extra. So these players are in your pocket. Okay, the rest, you need to give them some duties in some moments. Of course, you cannot make it in a great moment, but you need to make it. For example, I want to give more detail. I had a player, I think all of us in professional level had this player that doesn't want to jump in the morning. Okay, good. I understand. But as a coach, and this player was a middle blocker. So this middle blocker that doesn't want to jump in the morning, for me, is something acceptable. I understand. Okay. But At the same time, she needs to understand that I need to give her enough repetition to work on blocking. I was thinking that she should work on block. So, okay, if you don't want to jump in the morning, doesn't matter. Come afternoon practice earlier or stay extra. Then I will work with you the same amount as the other middle blockers. So after some time, these middle blockers started to jump in the morning with her wish. If she wouldn't, it wasn't a problem too, because she would work the same amount in the afternoon. So this is the way that I try to find solution. Doesn't matter. You need to have some repetition time in some moment. It's okay.
Speaking of rest, I was talking to Coach Giretti, and he was mentioning how it has changed his perspective on resting. You know, it had changed on how important it is resting right now and the specific times of the day. You know, and he was like, he told me two different answers. You know, the first one, he told me like it's based on, you know, on if someone is younger, the younger group would prefer a specific moment of the day to rest, or a specific amount of hours. Older, the same thing. So like, what's your perspective on rest?
So this depends a lot about your players, because in your team, if the marriage, I mean couples are more than usual, the times are changing. Because when you have a family, when you have a child, highly possible you cannot sleep daytime. I mean, you need to sleep at midnight, or maybe you don't sleep at midnight. So because of baby is crying, I don't know the case. So this also, you need to be very flexible about this work. And I agree that younger players and older players have different style. In my opinion, younger players need to be pushed more, because their lifestyle is not adaptable for this, let's say, tough life, family life. In my opinion, younger players, we have to push. Older players, we need to find the right way to give them rest. And it depends on their family situation, their travel to the practice, you know, how many time you make practice, a lot different cases.
Coach, if it for the next coming year now, what are your goals, and you know, and what are the things that you have learned throughout this period of time that we had a break, that you're going to apply now?
So for sure, because last year we won 3 cups, championship, cup and super cup. For sure, we need to repeat this. What am I trying to do now? Because I kept 8-9 players from the last season. It means that the main players are staying, and I brought some new players that needs to be adapted. So this will be my main case, to adapt them as quick as possible. At the same time, we will play European Champions League. I am not sure how it will happen in this pandemic. I hope to play the tournament, because last year we played European Cup semi-final, but because of pandemic we couldn't continue. So it will be tough case to finish the season in a good way, in a normal way. We will try our best, and we need to be flexible about this case.
Last question: what is the best Turkish restaurant that we need to try, the best Polish restaurant that we need to try, and the best restaurant in Japan?
So let's say like this, I will tell the favorite foods, you know.
Yes.
So if you are in Poland, you have
Yes.
to eat for sure pierogi.
Pierogi, okay.
Pierogi is the best food in Poland. I love Turkey. Many people would say kebab, you know, everybody knows this, meat, but I would say fish. You need to try fish in Turkey. It's really delicious. But of course, I cannot compare with Japan, because Japan is another level. Tempura. You need to eat tempura in Japan. Really nice. Really nice.
Perfect. Ferhat, thank you so much for the opportunity to talking to you. It was an honor learning from you today. You know, I hope that everyone that is watching and will be watching later on this video will get a lot of information from what we have discussed today. So again, I'm honored and I'm grateful for this opportunity. I wish you well this coming season. Please, you and your family, stay safe and healthy throughout these hard times. Do you have any last words for the people that are watching?
I just would like to thank to everybody, especially to you that you invite me. It was big honor for me to be here. With big pleasure. It was perfect for me.
Thank you so much again, Ferhat, and please take care, everyone out there. Remember that you can go into our Facebook page, Volley Junkies, and also our YouTube page and subscribe, like, and follow. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys next weekend.